guys, I'm Ray.
And I'm Jason.
And if you watched our MORryde independent suspension and Kodiak disc brake upgrade, you know that we partnered with MORryde and Kodiak to receive this upgrade back in April of 2019. So now that we've had this independent suspension for a while, we've had a lot of you reach out and ask us what are our opinions and thoughts, and do we notice a difference? So we decided to sit down and make this video. And in this video, we are going to be going over the differences between what we had with our leaf springs and shackles to what independent suspension is. We're going to give you some of our opinions and just personal experiences of things that we noticed with the upgrade. And then also, we threw a GoPro underneath our rig before and after the upgrade. So we're just going to get to show you the before and after footage as well.
If you're curious to see the installation or what to expect at the facility if you're getting the installation yourself, we're going to go ahead and link that video right here and in the description below. Let's get started.
Alright, so we have a Grand Design Solitude and our model is the 375 res. So from the factory it came with 7K axles and leaf springs. With our independent suspension, we decided to go for the 8K independent suspension. But I think it's important to note here, just because we went from 7K to 8K, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden we increased our cargo carrying capacity by 1,000 to 2,000 pounds. Basically, I think a good way to think about this is because we're full-time, our rig was almost at maximum capacity. So we opted for 8K so that way we're not at maximum capacity and our suspension still has some wiggle room. And your cargo capacity is actually based on your frame, what your frame is rated for, not your suspension exactly. We now basically have a stronger foundation, and I think that's a great way to look at if you're going to look at 7K, 8K, or even their 9K option. So if you are not going to be full-time, I would think their 7K like for like would be a great upgrade.
So now that we've clarified size, let's talk about shackles and leaf springs versus independent suspension. Obviously, the biggest issue with shackles and leaf springs are that they break. Well, we've been lucky enough to never experience it. It was always something we worried about and checked and looked at every time we went on the road. We heard so many stories about leaf springs and shackles breaking that it actually led us to start investigating other options, since we were starting to plan a big trip up to Alaska and didn't want to get stranded. With independent suspension, you don't have to worry about your leaf springs or shackles breaking because you don't have any. Another big reason we are looking into it is because it gives us an additional 3 inches of suspension travel. Our original leaf springs and shackles and equalizer only had about 2 inches of travel before that force was pushed up into the frame, where the independent suspension comes with 5 inches of travel.
Lastly, the biggest difference is right in the name, independent suspension. This means now that each one of our tires moves independently. This is really important when it comes to protecting the frame of our rig and having a smoother ride. I think the best example that we can give for this is a pothole. So if you think about your old these are your tires, and you have your axle in the middle here. So if you're going down the road and one tire hits a pothole, you're still connected by your axle. So this weight is shifting, you're putting stress on your frame, and this is normally where you can now break a leaf spring or a shackle because you've shifted something that shouldn't be moving that much. But with independent suspension, these are your 2 tires, and now they each have, as Jason said before, that 5-inch suspension now. So when you're rolling down the road and you hit a pothole, it doesn't affect the other side of your rig. So then you can smoothly go over it and just keep going. Rather than let my awkward hand movements explain how the independent suspension works, we are going to go ahead and show you our GoPro footage of before and after. I think it's important to note here that This is on the same highway. It is the I-80, and it is in the same state. It is in Nebraska. However, it is not the exact same strip of highway, and the only reason we didn't do that is because we didn't know we'd be in the exact same area. So we took the I-80 to get to Indiana for the upgrade, which is where we filmed the before footage. And then a couple months later, we made a last minute decision to go to a Grand Design rally, and we realized we're gonna be taking the exact same route. Let's get the after footage. So we did remember the state, but again, not the exact same strip of road, but I did go ahead and try and find the bumpiest footage from before and after. And if you know anything about the I-80, you know it's basically a horrible freeway, so it's gonna be pretty comparable. So let's dive right in.
So let's go over the differences that we noticed. I guess the number one thing is that it tows a lot smoother. Right now, our truck is most definitely the rougher ride. It's almost like we hit a pothole and fly up into the air with the stiff truck suspension, and then the trailer glides over it, is how I like to call it. So you definitely feel a difference. Another great benefit that we are seeing is that we're towing completely level now. So that was something that they aim to do. Every independent suspension is custom made. So we opted to just level out at 13.5 at the top of our front and back air conditioner.
Because it's a smoother ride, we've noticed things inside the RV aren't shifting around as much anymore. We don't have cups jumping out at us when we open the cupboard door anymore. And this is gonna be totally random, but it's something that I really like. Our little oven thermometer just sits at the bottom of our oven, and normally after a moving day, I'd have to reach in there and, really get to the back of the oven and pull out the oven thermometer before I started cooking. However, I noticed after a couple weeks with the independent suspension, oh, I haven't needed to reach back there and get it. It's normally just sitting where it is. So if this little oven thermometer isn't shifting around, obviously we're getting a much smoother ride. Another huge personal benefit is that our electronics aren't taking a beating anymore. We have a huge hard drive that crashed after a really rough moving day before, and that's sheer panic because it has all of our footage on it, all of our photos on it, and now we can just know that it is safe going down the road again. Another huge thing for us was that we recently got stuck in the mud while towing, which there's a whole different video on that. However, it was a really scary experience, and there's no way to prove what I'm about to say, but I truly believe if we had leaf springs and axles, this would have been the day that we broke them. We put the trailer through so much trying to get out of this mud that I truly believe we would have broken a leaf spring. So the independent suspension, having that extra 5 inches for our trailer to rock was scary, but really good. And we were going uphill and we were stuck uphill for hours and we had to keep stepping on the brakes. So the disc brakes in that situation were phenomenal.
Speaking of the brakes, the Kodiak disc brakes are awesome. You absolutely feel a difference in the disc brake stopping power. Just this RV is huge, so having that extra little bit of stopping power definitely helps. We've used that extra bit of stopping power twice now. Once a tractor cut us off and we're able to slow down and move around the tractor, which was good, and we were able to do that because we had enough stopping power. And then recently a deer also hit us, and so we were able to successfully slow down and maneuver to the side of the road. So can't say enough, the disc brakes are an amazing upgrade.
So it's pretty apparent that we love the upgrade and we think it's worth it, but we do want to go over some of the cons with you. One of them being that we added height to our rig. So before we were 13.4 in the front and 13.2 in the back, and that's the top of our ACs. So because we wanted to be completely level, and MORryde does level you out, and we upgraded to the 8K, which is a beefier, suspension that they have to build on there, we are now 13.5 across. So it really is no big difference, but it does add height, so I know for some that is a con.
And we just wanted to note that it added height to our specific build and it leveled us out, which we liked, but it doesn't add height to all builds. Someone that was getting the install at the same time of us actually requested to go a little bit lower, and that actually leveled him up because he was actually riding a little nose low. So each build is custom to your RV, and so just keep that in mind. Another potential con that we see is that leaf springs are more widely available. If you look around, almost anything that dries has leaf springs, and people are more familiar with them, and you can actually even get them fabricated in a shorter amount of time. The independent suspension doesn't come with anything crazy that you can't get fixed. It's just going to be a little bit more rare than leaf springs.
You will have to request parts from MORryde. Obviously, they're there for you and they're going to help you out if anything does happen. And then I do want to note that the disc brakes are actually easier to maintain and take care of than normal RV brakes, because those are just like cars and you can get those parts anywhere. So it's kind of a little toss-up there. And the last con is price. So we'll go ahead and put the current prices in our video right here. We do think that these prices are fair for what you're getting and well worth the upgrade. However, we understand that this might not be in everyone's price range, or you might change your RVs a little bit more frequently, so making this investment each time and going to the facility each time might not be worth it for you. So in those cases, we do want to let you know that MORryde does offer upgraded shackles, which we haven't tested out firsthand, but we've heard great things from other RVers that have it, and we've watched their presentation at RV rallies, so I do think that that's a great option as well. If you want more information, you can go to their website, which is MORryde.com, or feel free to shoot them an email at sales@morryde.com. Or if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and we'll get back to you. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to join our Getaway gang. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.